Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But and just trying to be helpful.
Oh, and I also got an air tube too, a brand new air tube, you know, when,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Did the bulls eat it out?
huh?
Did the bulls eat it out or what?
The air tube was,
Let me know when you're ready, ma'am.
when I was working for the military.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they do shit, man. Like a $400. Very grateful.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the City of North Pole's regular meeting starting at 7 o'clock. Madam Clerk, can you call roll call?
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Church,
Here.
Mr. Skips,
Here.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
and Mayor Clack.
Yes. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? And Benny is going to do the invocation.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we pray for the forward thinking that we will use. Join us with your spirit as we work through and us ability to accuracy, passion for our community. Bless our talents and may our worship inspire us to draw near to you. Before I say amen, turn around and take care of the president. Both presidents. Present one.
Love the minutes.
Move to approve the agenda.
Excuse me, agenda, excuse me.
Second.
Did anybody want to make amendments to the agenda this evening? Okay, on the motion, Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
and Mayor Clack.
Yes. Approval of the minutes from 7/1/2024.
Like to move to approve the minutes from July 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
Did anybody have any changes to those minutes at all? Okay, on the minutes from July 1st, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Clack.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the communications from the mayor. Mayor, did you have anything to communicate prior to LG giving their report?
No, I don't.
Let's see. Karen, are you on Zoom?
I think you're muted. You might want to turn that off. There you go.
Get myself unmuted. Hello. Were you ready for me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. And does it work for me to share my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, so what you should be seeing is the front page of the letter to the City Council. And for those of you who I haven't talked to, which I think is most of you, I met with your mayor and obviously have been working with management a lot on your audit. And I am Karen Tarver, and I'm a partner with LG Bayfeld. We're a CPA firm in Juneau, Alaska, and we were selected as your auditors for this year. And we did most of our audit remotely, although we do have one of our accountants that actually lives up in Fairbanks and works for us remotely. And so she was able to go into your office and do some of the audit work in person. So as a result of your audit, we issue this document, which is the letter to the City Council, as well as your bound audited financials that include our audit opinion letters over your financial statement audit, as well as you had what's called a federal single audit. Because of the federal funding that you have, you trigger a compliance audit, and that's done in conjunction with the financial statement audit. That's why it's called a single audit. So and feel free to interrupt me as I go. I was going to provide basically an overview of the letter to the council and then go through the financial statement or audit opinions quickly, and then just touch on kind of how to read your financial statements just at a high level, and then just open up for questions. But if questions come up as I'm going, feel free to interrupt. So the letter to the council is required communication that we auditors have to make. Again, you can read this, so I'll just kind of highlight a few things. We have to make sure that those charged with governance, so that is management as well as the council, understand kind of our responsibilities versus management. The key one, obviously, is that we are doing our audit standards in conjunction with also assisting you in the preparation of your financial statements. And so the preparation of the financial statements is a separate engagement. It's called a non-in-test engagement. And that means that we have to make sure that we have identified any risk of us having self-review, is what it's called. And so to mediate that, we make sure that we have an audit partner that's separate from the audit engagement, do a review of both our work and the financial statement draft, to make sure that we still followed all our standards and maintained our independence. So our purpose of our audit, again, is to opine on your financial statements. We're really making sure that the information contained in them is materially correct, and we follow both generally accepted auditing standards as well as what's called government auditing standards, which are the ones that dictate how we do your compliance audits. Obviously, we can't audit everything, so the key to auditing is going in and doing what's called a risk assessment. So in doing that, we gain an understanding of how your internal controls are set up. So again, management's responsibility is to make sure that they have designed and implemented controls to make sure that information is captured and to be reported correctly. So we look at those controls, we identify which ones we consider to be key controls, and then we test those to make sure that they're operating effectively. And if we find that they are, then that way we can rely on it and project those results of testing out to the population of expenses or revenue or account balances, and have basically valid assurance based on our testing that those balances should be correct based on the results of that testing. And we also do what's called substantive testing, which is basically tracing account balances or information to external sources, such as your investments. Investment balances can be traced right to your investment statements that we send confirmations to them and get those back. Same thing with like your debt or some of your AR or AP accounts. So again, just kind of key things we're required to communicate to is the planning and scope of our audit. We were a little bit behind schedule this year, although we did get issued on time in accordance with our proposal and the timeline that you guys had asked for. This year being our first year, it did take us a little longer to kind of get information. It always takes longer in that first year, just make sure that everyone understands what we're asking for and make sure we're getting the right information. I mentioned the independence already. I talked about the significant risks. And so we communicated those with management. We make sure we're designing any risks that we see. A lot of times those will stem from your prior year. If your prior year auditor reported issues, then we know that might be an issue in the current year. So we're making sure we have audit procedures designed for those. One thing we also make sure we're letting you know is if there's been any changes to the significant accounting policies. So you did have a new accounting standard go into effect this year. It's called GASB 96. It's subscription-based information technology agreements. And what those really are, we call them SPIDAs, is long-term subscriptions of IT. That's really what it is. And what this new standard requires you to do is to put that on your book. So rather than just expensing it as you pay it, you actually show an asset and a liability associated with that long-term agreement. None of the agreements that you had as of year end met the criteria, but we'll get into it later, but we did recommend that a policy be developed related to this new accounting standard. Within your financial statements, there's also significant accounting estimates. And you'll see bullet pointed here, the ones that are the most significant to your financial statements. They relate to your pension and other post-employment benefits, or OPEB. Those liabilities, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. I have to clear my throat real quick. That information comes from the state. The state provides that information, but again, it's based on estimates. And so management's using those estimates within your financial statements. Also, the what's called the net realizable amount to be collected from your accounts receivable. So with your receivables, sometimes there's amounts that you're not going to collect based on the number of days it's been outstanding or just other situations. And so there's an estimate that comes into play as far as how much will actually be collected. And then your cost of your health insurance, again, those are because you're a self-insured plan, you are estimating the liability related to those. And so again, with all of these, we look at how management developed those estimates and the amounts related to them. Excuse me. We had no significant difficulties with doing your audit. Management was very good to work with. We really appreciated all their help. We know, especially first time through, we had lots of questions, so we appreciate their patience. We did have some adjustments. Again, we're required to bring to your attention if we have what's considered material adjustments. We had the 3 bullet points there, which are related to your capital assets for governmental activities. So your governmental funds, those assets, there were some errors in the spreadsheet that's used to maintain those assets, and those were corrected in the current year audit. Same thing with some of the beginning fund balances. There were adjustments posted during the year that resulted in fund balances not agreeing to the prior year. Without getting into all the details of that, I could tell you that management was somewhat misled as to some adjustments they needed to post during the year, and were told by the accounting software that the best place to post the entries were to fund balance. They followed that guidance. That's why that happened. We came in and helped management reconcile the accounts and found that that wasn't the right place for the adjustment to have been posted. So those were again corrected during the year. And then one of the accounts payable balances I mentioned, we usually confirm with external entities if there are balances we can confirm. One of them was one of your note payable balances, and the confirmation or the information received from the state showed that the amount you owed was less than what was carried on your books. In further investigation of that, it was found that the state had actually forgiven part of your debt several years ago. It was unclear, though, whether the state had ever actually communicated that to you. So it became an audit adjustment because it hadn't been previously captured in your financial statements, and it came to the attention to management as a result of the audit. But at least now that adjustment is made in your financial statements, and your debt went down about 16,000, I believe, on one of your Alaska Department of Commerce note payables. We also had some small adjustments, which we brought to management's attention. They decided that they could be addressed in the next year, and we agreed. That was kind of some various liability accounts that have been carried forward for several years. And we recommend going through those and reviewing them and kind of really digging into like, why are they there? What do they relate to? And maybe they're at the point where they should be written off. The investment accrual, this has been treated consistently between years, but it was more just talking to management about whether they want to continue the way that they're doing it. And really what it comes down to is that the investment statement shows the earnings to be paid in December, even though the cash doesn't post till January. So it's a timing issue. But again, those were ones that management decided not to reflect because again, that can be dealt with in the next year. Excuse me. We have to let you know if there were consultations with other accountants. We know that your management is working with another accounting firm. We worked with them as well to make sure we understood kind of what kind of advice or information had been consulted on during the year. So we're required to let you know if there are control deficiencies as a result of our audit. And we, similar to last year, we are reporting that there's a material weakness over internal controls over the financial reporting, and it's specifically related to the general ledger accounting and the year-end close process. This is not necessarily a new finding. It was, as I said, from in last year as well. The conversion to your new accounting system, as you know, was very time consuming and was not completed at the end of 22 and so carried over into 23. As a result, we feel like some of the accounts had not been significantly reconciled or reviewed or monitored during the year. And therefore, that is why we had our material adjustments at the end of the year. We report back to you on the prior year findings. And so again, as I mentioned, finding number 2022-001, we repeated again this year. We felt like the conditions were still there. For 2022-02, which was that the schedule of expenditures of federal rewards had not been prepared. They actually did prepare that for 23's audit, and so that significant deficiency is considered resolved. You also had a compliance finding last year in 22 related to some of your required reports not being submitted. For our audit of your federal programs this year, we did not find that to be occurring, and so that significant deficiency is considered resolved as well. You also had a significant deficiency related to allowable cost, and again, in our audit of the 23 activity, we did not note any issues there, and so that is also considered resolved. And
I have a question. Could I?
yes.
Yes. So, and looking at what you just reported to us, we have corrected significant material from the 2023 or 2022 audits. And the most significant one in this year's audit for fiscal year 2023 was some internal controls weakening. And most of that was attributed to the fact that we implemented a new software in your estimate. And then with your help, we were able to adjust the fund balances so they were accurately reported and reflected in the budget and the audit. Do you foresee any future issues with internal controls now that we have a new financial software system implemented?
Good question. I think management is now very aware of maybe where the areas are that are causing some of the problems. Some of it is that reports in your new software weren't set up to capture information accurately. And those reports were being used to adjust account balances. And so now that that's been identified, basically other reconciliations or other information can be pulled together rather than just relying on that system generated report. I know, and I can let management speak to this as well, but I know part of the plan is to work with the accounting system as well as your external accounting firm that's assisting you with your accounting to address some of the issues that we found during the audit and help them develop processes that make sure that the information is captured correctly.
Thank you for your help in that matter and with our staff especially.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions at this point?
Seeing none, go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. So at the end of the letter, I was just going to comment, we did put in this little comment. We obviously we only put into the letter to the council items that rise to the level of what's considered a significant deficiency or material weakness. And so as we find other small items of basically opportunities for improvement, just items that management basically can address that don't necessarily rise our audit risk, essentially, we communicate those. So I just actually met with Tricia today and Michelle, and we kind of just talked through again kind of some of the issues, and they have a good plan set up for how they're going to be addressing kind of the minor things that we noted. So kind of going back to the question that was just asked, I would expect for your 24 audit, I mean, here we are halfway through your year, but at the same time, they still have half a year to address a lot of those things. And some of them, one is, for example, just the periodic review of policies and procedures. So for federal grants, you follow what's called uniform guidance. Uniform guidance has recently been updated. And so just, again, it's a good practice to go back and look at your own internal policies and procedures and make sure that, where there can, if there's updates that would make things more streamlined for you, such as changes in procurement thresholds, that kind of information, it's always a good time whenever there's a change of uniform guidance to go back through your internal documentation as well and just evaluate whether you want to make any changes. So those are the kind of discussions that we had. We talked about new accounting standards coming up in the next couple years and whether they might be impacting you on, going forward. So those are kind of the discussions we had with management. So I'm going to switch now to the this is your audited financial statements together with the independent auditor's report. So using the table of contents to help you kind of navigate through this document, I know it's a large one. What we issue our opinion on is over the basic financial statements. So basically from pages 4 to the end of your notes to the basic financial statements, that's what our opinion covers. So there is other information called required supplementary information so GASB, which is Government Accounting Standards Board, is who sets your reporting requirements. And they basically say you need to also include these schedules over your pension and OPEB. And so that becomes required supplementary information. Then you have what's called supplementary information, which is just information that basically is typically included with basic financial statements to provide additional information. And we issue what's called an in relation to opinion over that information, which means that we look at it, we do enough work over it to make sure that we feel it's materially correct in relation to the basic financial statements. And then within your audited financial statement packet, you have your compliance audit reports, and you have 2, which is the independent auditor's report over internal controls and in accordance with GAS. And what that really says is that we look at internal controls over compliance, but we don't issue an opinion over those internal controls. But again, if anything rose to the level of being a significant deficiency or a material weakness, which basically means it's a control weakness, it starts increasing the risk of something being non-compliant or materially incorrect, we're required to report to you. And then we issue an opinion over your federal major program. The schedule of expenditures of federal awards is a listing of all your federal awards and how much was expended in fiscal year 23. And that's actually a schedule that management puts together. And then we have what's called the schedule of findings and question costs and the prior year and corrective. So we've kind of already covered these in the letter to the council, but in the bound financial statements, it goes into detail for each of those findings. But we've talked through some of this information already, but I will highlight this is your opinion paragraphs essentially, and this is what you want right here, which is called an unmodified opinion. So it's basically saying that in our opinion, the financial statements in all material respects basically are representative of the city financials and basically in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So again, that's called an unmodified opinion. And that is what you want. We talked already that, we do it following both what we call GAS as well as the government auditing standards. And then management is responsible for making sure that the systems are in place and the information is correct within your financial statements. As we talked about, we're responsible for the audit, and you can read all the bullet points of all the stuff that we have to make sure we're doing as part of your audits. I talked about the required supplemental information. There is another required supplemental information document called a management discussion and analysis. It is somewhat optional, and so management has opted to omit it, and we just have to disclose that in our opinion or in our letter. It doesn't impact our opinion at all. And so then I would just kind of tell you that these are your financial statements. The first couple pages are what's called your government-wide. And then really the ones that I feel are most useful to most governments are your fund statements. So these are your governmental funds. So again, it lists by each of the major funds, and then the aggregate non-major is listed as other governmental funds. Specifically, I think most governing bodies are very interested at year end is what is left in fund balance by fund. And so you did have a deficit in your debt service fund, but you have positive fund balances in your other funds, and overall a positive fund balance of about 6.4 million. So there's a difference between your governmental funds and your government-wide financials in that they're presented on a different basis of accounting. So this reconciles between the two. This is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes of a balance, also called an income statement. Again, this is for your governmental funds, and this shows you money coming in, money going out, and the change to fund balance for each of your funds. So, excuse me, those are very useful. Usually the other one that is the detailed budget to actual for the general fund, and then you have your enterprise funds. And so again, the amounts that are included in these financials should be very similar to your internal financial statements that you got. While we did have there are year-end adjustments that happen, and the funds get collapsed. The funds that are in your accounting system get collapsed. If you have questions on how this information, goes from your accounting system reports to the financial statements, management has what's called grouping reports that can walk you through how you get from your accounting system to what's in the financial statements, or I'm always happy to go through those with you. So the rest of your financials is the notes to the financials, which I'm just, as you can see, scrolling through all this. But again, it provides you more breakdown of amounts if you wanted to understand, for example, what debt is out there. This will describe, what's coming up for future years for each of the different debt. It has also lots of information about your pension and OPEB, lots of required disclosures related to that. And it does have here note 15, these are upcoming accounting pronouncements. And so again, making sure probably the one of most significance for you guys will be GASB 101, which relates to compensated absences and how those are reported. So that's something that management will need to be working on going forward. And so then, as I mentioned, the rest of the information is supplementary, both required and the other supplementary. And then I'm just going to go back down to, so the opinion letter for your federal major program, very similar overall to your financial statements, in that here is your opinion over your federal program. And it was also what's called unmodified. So that is exactly what you want. This is your schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which again shows that you had 1.4 of federal expenditures in the year. And this is your schedule of findings and question costs. If you wanted to read more information on the findings that were included, this is where you would look as it goes through each one and gives a more robust discussion than what was included in the letter to the council. And so with that, hopefully I didn't take up too much time, but I wanted to provide you a good overview of both the letter to the council and your audited financial statements. And I'm happy to address any other questions you guys have at this time.
Questions? Yes, Jeff.
Just wanted to clarify for council, having an unmodified opinion or summary of auditor's result is the gold standard that we want, not a modified. So we did very well in this audit with coming through with unmodified opinions.
Right, right.
And
so
then,
yes, that is correct.
And then the other thing is that with GASB, it's constantly changing on the federal level. And so we have the GASB 100, 101, 102, 103. That's going to be an ongoing challenge no matter what, when the rules change year to year with how we account and what the feds expect of accounting standards, correct?
That is right. And those standards themselves, I'm sorry, relate to like how the financial information is reported. On the other hand, you have what's called uniform guidance, which is really specific to your federal awards and how basically awards have to be administered. And that also, like I said, just went through a big update. And so again, it's takes a lot of time, to stay on top of these and make the changes necessary. And so just making sure that you have someone that's monitoring this information. And while you might not necessarily have to have the expertise to do the changes yourself, you need to be monitoring that there are changes and can be pulling in people to help as needed.
Great. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Karen, very much for joining us this evening and sharing our good news.
You're very welcome. And thank you for selecting us your auditors. It was a pleasure working with you. I just want to commend your staff because they were very helpful. And I know it is not fun being audited, and they were a pleasure to work with. And we look forward to working with you guys in the future as well.
Thank you very much. And thanks to our staff. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mayor, did you have anything else to add under Mayor's comments?
None.
That brings us to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens this evening that would like to comment? I have nobody online and nobody in chambers. Oh, I apologize. Were there any questions of the mayor prior to citizens' comments? Thank you. That brings us to ongoing projects, which we have nothing on the agenda.
Oh, you missed something, departments.
Oh, my goodness.
Department heads and borough.
Department heads and borough representative. Mayor Clack, who would you like to start with department heads?
Let's start with Danny.
Right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'll cover special topics and then I'll go over the three departments. I was asked to provide an update on the outputs of our CDL training. Last year, Public Works specifically requested this training and we sent 3 students. Originally, we had 4 scheduled. One of our students actually moved over to Utilities from Public Works and had a schedule conflict, so we sent 3. We sent 2 from Public Works and 1 from Utilities.
and training occurred from May 4th to June 4th. This included training from 2 to 6 hours per day to include some weekends, and overall outputs included all students passing and receiving their CDL Class A licenses. For utilities, this gives us one extra driver for the jet vac truck and the ability to haul a trailer behind that vehicle. And for public works, this allows us to haul generators and the 20,000-pound excavator behind the dump truck. For everyone, this was a phenomenal drivers and safety training experience, and I suspect that they view the road much differently as the result of this training. Moving on to public works, the main focus for public works remains brush cutting and paving prep. They provided details on the amount of required paving for this year, which is about 10,200 square feet, which has been relatively similar to previous years. Rain has helped with some of the watering requirements, but the vegetation continues to grow and constantly needs attention. And Public Works continues to work behind the scenes to keep things safe and beautiful. For the building department, we continue to support construction efforts both at Three Bears and Santa Claus House, and both are progressing, although we are unclear on timelines, i.e. project finish times, etc. Currently, there are a number of residential units under construction within the city to include one fourplex, two duplexes, 4 single-family homes, and 2 single-family homes with mother-in-law apartments. And finally, for utilities, summer operations continue, and of note, the paving this summer, about 25% of it will involve utilities lines that have been dug up and need road work as a result. Additionally, the utilities crew is working on meter upgrades and they're working those into their normal home visits. Right now, they've installed about 24 meters. They have quite a few to go, but right now they're just working them into their routine visits for utilities requirements. And that's really all I have for the council right now, and I can answer any questions.
Yes, Larry.
Going back to the CDLs, I know that you had budgeted $5,000 a piece for those CDLs. How did that come out as far as being on budget?
It costs more. We both upfront, they had advertised that the DOT was going to pick up the instructor costs. They did not pick up the instructor costs upfront. But we paid for each individual, we paid $5,750. We still are sort of haggling with the instructor fees for this, which will increase the per student cost to about $8,000 per student. Even though that it was higher than what we budgeted, we did look at other programs throughout the state of Alaska. There's some down in Kenai, there's some down south. Sending our folks down there would have involved sending them down for sort of temporary duty where we'd have to pay per diem and some of the other things. So we looked at the overall prices for CDLs run $10,000 to $15,000 per person and some of the other options that we looked at. So I still think that this was a very good deal. I still am working on the final costs. Again, we had to have them go back and justify some of the instructor expenses because we did have to pay, along with other folks that participated, we had to pay for some of the transportation, some of the truck rental, and some of the other things. So the final bill, we haven't got the final bill yet for that. But like I said, it's estimated that it'll cost between $7,000 and $8,000 per person when we finally get it done.
Wow, that's quite a sizable difference. Okay. And then the building projects, can you give us an update on Three Bears? Santa Claus House, I know has some construction going on
Right.
at the Antler Academy. I've seen that. And thank you for the residential report with the fourplexes, the duplexes, and single family homes in our area. That's nice to hear. So that's good news.
So Three Bears continues to move along. We are working with them on the walls of the building. We still we are reviewing. We're actually had to bump that up to a higher level of review for some of the Alaska panels that are on there. And so we're still not finished with that review. But one of the things that Three Bears mentioned that they're moving along in the other areas. They're pouring concrete. They're installing the water lines. The utilities are going in. I don't have a good timeline for it because really it's on Three Bears as far as when they're actually going to get everything done. But as far as the city's concerned, everything that needs to be inspected from the building side and from the utility side, because we are using Stantec for the utilities, we're using NSC Alaska, which is our building contracted building inspector. Everything's getting inspected and according to code. For Santa Claus House, they put in all the requisite requirements for what they're building over there. I think that next week, we're actually going to do a walkthrough with Paul Brown, the operations manager there, and our building inspector to make sure that we're all synced on that project. But up to this point, and a lot of you have seen a lot of activity over at Santa Claus House too, they've complied with all the requirements. So we're confident that that's going to be on track. But again, on timelines, I'm always reluctant to give out timelines because I really don't know what goes on, on the commercial side and what they're doing. But like I said, both of the projects are being inspected by code by the city, and I think we're on track with those.
Ask one more
Yes, you
question.
may.
This morning headed out, I drove down Santa Claus Lane through the roundabouts, and there's a huge pothole kind of out in front of the, not the tortilla factory.
Are you talking about the one in front of UMV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was reported to DOT this morning, and
Okay.
it's on their list of potholes. DOT maintains the three, the Santa Claus Lane, St. Nick, and then Old Rich Highway. If we see things on there, and even if we see graffiti under the bridge, we'll call DOT. They put it on their list. And if the graffiti's not offensive, it gets lower on the list. The graffiti's offensive, it gets higher on their list. But we did get a report actually from the police department on that same pothole. We've gotten other reports on potholes that are not on city roads, but they are in parking lots for commercial businesses. Unfortunately, the city we don't fix those for those businesses. So
I did notice that one this morning. I
I-
ended up with a little coffee on my lap on the way in. So
yeah,
thank you for
I saw that one
reporting
too.
that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we had some sort of route to report those to DOT.
Right. Ron Davis, DOT, the DOT area manager, we have each other on speed dial, both myself, Cody, and him, as far as texting back and forth. It's important this time of year. It's even just as important during the winter as far as snow plowing and everything else in the city. But we have a really good working relationship with DOT on those roads. So.
Okay, any other questions? Jeff?
Yeah, I know at one time, City of Fairbanks Public Works was going to work with Public Works here in North Pole on CDL training. I'm really appalled at the price that the city ended up having to pay for this, and I don't blame the city for that. I blame the state. Recently, the state, as of last year, changed the requirements for CDL. In the past, businesses and organizations were able to provide in-house training for CDL licensing. All they have to do is just read the CDL manual from the state, take that test, and then go out and do the driving test. And the state changed that now. And instead of allowing private entities to train their own staff, they are requiring certified instructors to teach a certified curriculum. And that's where you're seeing this outrageous training cost. And it's having a ripple effect in the industry because I have 35 employees that need CDLs, and if they don't come with a CDL, it just devastates my training budget to get them. So I have great sympathy with that, and just encourage those employees to stay current so that we don't have to go through that expense. We talked about in general terms the Santa Claus House expansion and the Antler Academy. I heard yesterday that, and this is the first time I heard it ever being talked about, is that they're developing a mini year-round resort on the property. And that's why they're moving the reindeer pen back. That new North Pole is going to be like the center of their resort. Is that what is being discussed with you? Is it something that is public knowledge that
Their overall plans, I don't think are public knowledge right now. I think all that we're getting is hearsay. We have a good relationship with the Santa Claus House, and for example, the pole that's going to go up, there's very strict, as you know, there's very strict requirements on, any sort of tall standing structure, signs that go up, everything else as far as how the base. So they are complying with all that. As far as opening the aperture and showing us their whole plan, I haven't seen their entire plan. Next week, possibly we will. I am reluctant sometimes to again, to repeat what if I have a meeting with the Santa Claus House, to repeat exactly what they tell us, because it
I
may not
understand.
come to fruition.
It's
At the same
confidential,
time,
business plans.
yeah, and we don't want to ruin that. We don't want to affect that relationship, because we do have a great relationship with those folks. They have no hesitation about putting in building permits and doing everything that's right. Sometimes they don't know what they need to do, and we'll send somebody over there to kind of talk them through what needs to happen as far as building permitting. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. It's
Exciting. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you. Hey, Chief, you're up. Chief Heineken. I want to be in your suitcase.
Good evening, everybody. Couple things from the fire department to report on. The first one is the ambulance we had ordered back in 2022. One of our favorite topics. Last week, I received word from that vendor, Rocky Mountain Emergency Vehicles, and he had reported that he was going to be in the Fairbanks area this week and wanted to schedule a meeting with me to look at the package, the decal package that would go on this ambulance. So I immediately responded to him via email, let him know the current situation, that due to his lack of responsiveness, the actions we had to take with ordering another ambulance from another vendor. And I informed him that before I would set a time to meet with him, that we needed to assure that he would honor the quoted price in 2022, which took a couple of days to get a response from him. But a few days later, he responded and reported that he was not able to honor that price. And so we have officially canceled that order with Rocky Mountain Emergency Vehicles. Good luck to them in their future. I hope they can learn something from this process. I know there's other entities in our area that have orders with them that have actually similar but worse problems because they had to put money down. So
The fact that they sent their representative in person speaks loudly about their problems.
yes. So we're moving on from that. I'm glad to have that behind us. You know, if they could have produced an ambulance at that cost, that would have probably been beneficial to proceed. But without a doubt, I felt and I believe the council instructed me pretty clearly that it was that price or nothing. So that's what we went with. On a better note, the ambulance we are going to receive, I've got word that it's about ready for pickup, and we have scheduled a time, and I will be flying down to Montana and driving that up in August. I leave on August 9th. Should be back, within that week or so of picking the ambulance up and bringing it back. I've got it scheduled in with local vendor to get decaling and radio installed as soon as we get it back here in town. So I'm hoping by the end of August, possibly we'd have that new ambulance up and running and in service. So yeah, great news on that side. And we'll really put it through the tests and trials because it is a new style ambulance for us. You know, the staff are really going to be getting creative in, how they want to actually outfit it with the equipment that's going to be on it. And they'll probably make some changes over times in adjustments. And then hopefully everything's successful. I'm still very excited about it, and our staff are very excited about it. So.
Any questions?
I got one more thing, and I mean, we can take questions on that ambulance stuff if you like.
Yeah, but my question is, do you need a rider to go down with you and come back?
Well, and full transparency, my wife will be riding with me. So we actually, we've got family friends in the Montana area that we had planned a trip in August to go visit. So we're actually going to spend a few days. She bought a ticket and is going to follow me down, and we will spend a few days before we pick the ambulance up in Montana visiting family friends, and then we'll pick the ambulance up and then head north. So she'll be able to elbow me and make sure I'm going north.
See that?
So yeah, I won't be alone.
I think you had something else.
Yep.
Larry had a question.
If I could just
Yeah.
ask one more. I know we talked about this before, but insurance for that ambulance, since we are an Alaskan insurance setup, did you talk with our insurer about the Canadian policy while traveling to bring that ambulance up?
Yeah, I believe I talked with Emily. We reassured that would not be a problem.
Cool.
So, and then, just to try to ease the border crossing situation. The vendor has said that once they receive full payment, which we're working on this week, they'll be able to mail us certified mail, the certificate of origin for the vehicle. So I can go into UMV here in North Pole and I'll be able to get it titled, plated, registered. We'll get it on the city's insurance policy officially at that time. And that way, when I travel, we'll be able to put the plates on it right there in Montana, and I won't be trying to get through the border with paper plates and worried that they won't let me through.
And then also for your company cell phone while you're traveling through Canada, make sure that we upgrade that policy to a global policy, or you get pinged with a bunch of overages through Canada while you're happening. So,
Okay, yeah, I will.
so you know, personally and professionally that.
I'll look and make sure that's not going to be an issue. I came through last spring and I believe my cell phone policy, yeah, it didn't do any of those, but I'll double check. So, yep.
To know.
So
Any other questions?
So the second thing I've kind of got on my list is a update on the apprentice process. I'm happy to report the apprentices are doing great. All 5 of them are doing great. But this last week we did find our first hiccup in our system that was we did not foresee this hiccup coming. As you all know, right now they're doing the Firefighter 1 Academy. They're working Monday through Friday, doing that academy right here at the fire station, just as we planned. And then our intent was, once they were done with that, they will go on shift. And then this fall, they will attend EMT 1 class. And traditionally, through our contract with the Fairbanks North Star Borough to provide EMS service outside of the city, part of that contract is, as far as I can remember, they provide EMT training to our staff. And this has been just ongoing for so long. It's just been a normal year to year. So I figured without a doubt, we'll get these 3 apprentices and then probably several other volunteers into the next class this fall. I learned last week that the borough had changed things up with the contractor they used to provide EMT training to all of the borough contracted departments, including the city of North Pole. And we're going to be allowed 1 person in a class this fall. I was extremely upset with this. I did communicate back with them. It was probably an email that I probably should have sat on for 24 hours before sending, but it was sent. This really affects not just the apprentice program, but our volunteer program and volunteer programs throughout the entire borough. This was not brought up to us in multiple meetings with Fairbanks North Star Borough Emergency Operations, who plans this. We meet with them monthly for EMS. This EMS training contract has came up in almost every meeting over the last 6 months because they knew they were probably changing contractors. What they did not bring up to us was the fact that they were reducing it to such a significant level that it becomes useless to the entire borough. So today, myself and Chief Chambers sat down and we realized that we've got to work out a plan. We've got to do something. We've got these 3 apprentices and then we have other volunteers that really need this training. So we're looking at some different options. The one option is we could send them to a university class and pay full tuition. That gets extremely expensive. I did not budget in our budget for those expenses. And then, it sends them outside of our area for the training, of course. So the option we're really looking at doing right now is possibly teaching an EMT class in-house. It's something we traditionally have not done in many, many, many years at North Pole. We've always had this contract with the borough that provided that level of training. We are fortunate. We do have very talented staff. We have a couple EMT instructors on our staff. One of them in particular, we're already talking with about trying to provide that training to our staff immediately after our Firefighter 1 Academy goes. So we're still trying to work out the details to that. It's a little complicated as we would have to take that staff member off of their normal shift and put them on a Monday through Friday shift to provide that instruction. So I talked with the CFO today about the options. We don't currently have anything in ordinance that is a transition for pay scale when we move somebody from our 106-hour schedule that they're working on shift to a 40-hour employee. We do have in code conversion factors for converting leave. If let's say, well, for me, as example, when I went from shift work as a captain to being hired as the deputy chief, they had to take my leave bank, and there is a conversion right in our ordinances that show you how to do it, and they converted my leave to that. We don't have that to allow this employee to come work Monday through Friday, and have a paycheck at the end of that 2 weeks that is fair and equitable to what he would have made if he would have stayed on his normal shifts. I'm bringing this up now because we don't have that plan set forth right now, but my plan is to work with the CFO over the next 2 weeks and possibly get something for the next council meeting that the council would be able to approve. If any of you want any hand in or information or anything in that over the next 2 weeks on how that might look. But my intention is that this individual, we have him on shift and he makes, so much in that 2 week period. We need that conversion to where when we move him down to where he's only working 40 hours a week rather than 53 hours a week, that converts to the same take home pay. So it's equitable to him and his family. And it's a hardship for him to change his lifestyle to begin with to do this. So I definitely don't want to make it a financial hardship. So my plan is to bring that next council meeting.
Yes, Jeff.
Chief, how long do you estimate the EMT training course to last? What is it typically?
It's typically
9 weeks, 12 weeks?
Well, they spread it out because they only do it a couple weeknights and then an all day Saturday, and they'll spread that out over 3 or 4 months. What we're planning to do is doing it in a similar academy style where the apprentices stay working Monday through Friday, just like they are. And we're going to compress it into approximately 5 weeks. Is what they're looking at we can do. I'll know a little bit more in the coming weeks as we put together the curriculum, the exact curriculum we'll use. Make sure that the instructor that we're talking about is willing to do it. And then that's our goal at this time to accomplish that. And then next year we'll plan accordingly.
And for your class sizes, obviously you're going to have the 3 apprentices in there. How many other other staff are you going to try to put in that course?
We could easily, double that to 6. We've only got the 1 instructor. So you kind of get into that ratio where you don't want to go too far, with just 1 instructor. If you had, a 15, 20 person course, it would not be appropriate. But I feel we could easily double that to 6, which that's most likely what we average for, the volunteers that we'll need to put into this along with the 3 apprentices.
We'll still be able to send 1 to the borough for free.
That's the plan is we could find out that might work better for a lot of people's schedules. Not, that's the problem with us doing it in the academy mode. That's a hard schedule if somebody, is a volunteer that has a full-time job, So yeah, we'd have 1 position at the borough course to be able to fill.
And the other thing, just thinking out of the box, if it doesn't work out that we can't fill all 6, you might shop around and have another department pay us tuition to send one of their
That is a
employees
possibility.
to fill out our 6 quota. Just an idea.
Yeah, that is definitely something that could be possible.
Yeah, Larry.
The contractor that the borough EMS is using, do you know who that contractor is? And have you reached out to see if we might be able to piggyback off of that and have that same EMS instructor carry on for 4 more weeks or 5 more weeks out here to do that rather than losing?
Yeah, I do know who it is. I'm a little hesitant to put them out there because this is not on them. So
Right. No, I 100%
So,
understand.
in full transparency, they did change contractors. The Interior Region EMS has provided this service contract to the borough for these services for as long as I can remember. And I've been in the fire service since '88 around here. It's been a long time. And they did change to another contractor. This is a very reputable organization, a very large organization, and they do a lot of instruction. And yeah, they would not have the flexibility to be able to move their classes. They basically what this is that one individual will be sitting in class with other people that pay that institution to teach people.
Here's my question here. The U doesn't have it EMT in class?
What's that?
The University of Alaska doesn't have an
The
EMT?
university does have those classes.
Okay, is that feasible for our students?
TTC?
Excuse me?
Is that feasible for our students?
We would have to pay them full tuition.
Okay,
Yeah, which gets, like I said, I did not budget for that in the fire
Right.
department's budget this year. We did budget for the paramedic program that we've got one of our employees in, and that is really absorbed so much of our training budget that
okay.
when I got this information last week, it was devastating knowing that I don't have a training budget to do that, to send them to the university and pay full tuition.
Okay,
It would get extremely expensive.
okay. When you say full tuition, are you saying being on campus or just the tuition and fees?
Yeah, they would have to pay tuition and fees that are involved with that course.
Okay.
Yes. I believe EMT 1 is a 6-credit course. I'm not exactly sure what current.
600,
what-
100 level or 300 level?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is, I could not answer.
Their
Okay.
credit hours are probably close to 1,000 or more an hour now.
Is it
Yeah,
that high?
that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
So,
Yeah, because it's.
so like I said, we have other ways to do it. We do have very talented instructors in-house. And it's not that big of a deal for us to teach it in-house. It just was unexpected. It was unscheduled. We're really having to change things up. And I don't want it to impact our apprentices and our volunteers any more than it already has.
Yes, Larry.
I mean, have you reached out to other chiefs who are kind of having the same issue and felt them out for what they're doing or thinking about doing?
I've had significant conversations. I am the president of the Interior Fire Chiefs Association, so it's pretty natural that a lot of that type of communications comes through me centrally. And yeah, I am not the only fire chief in this town that has really been taken by surprise by this sudden change, this uncommunicated changes. That's the biggest problem that we have is it'd be one thing that if it was something we could have planned for, but we were notified by the contractor that got their contract via email. Here's how you can register your one student. That's how we were notified of this change. And like I said, we sit in monthly meetings with Borough Emergency Operations people that are responsible for honoring this and providing this, and it was never mentioned at any time.
So the course in which they'd have to take would be Emergency Medical Technician 1?
Correct.
Okay. So that is credited at 6 credits. It's 100 level. It is a pass and fail according to this.
Yeah, so it would be whatever, tuition is per credit, 6 credits times our 3 individuals for sure that we'd need to get in there, plus any others that we could manage to. So, like I said, I feel it is a much better option this time for us to try to bring this in-house. We'll probably get, more thorough, better education, North Pole ambulance specific education. There are some pros. The downside was, like I said, we're really scrambling quickly to make this happen is the downside. It would have been, if we'd have known 6 months ago and give this instructor the chance to really prepare and form this curriculum and make sure the class was ready to go. But I have so much confidence in my staff. I definitely I give them credit, this apprentice academy so far has gone flawlessly. They've been super supportive, and that was one of my fears as I've communicated before that, if the staff do not embrace this, it could be ugly. But no, my staff have absolutely embraced this. This idea actually came from this instructor when communicating with myself and as the assistant chief. Yeah, they really are stepping up their game. I have full confidence they'll make it work. It's just unfortunate that our
You have
hands
to go
were
this
forced
way.
and we had to do it this way.
Okay.
So us as,
Larry has a question.
thank you. Us as a city council, how long do we have to sort of help make this decision if we need to make this decision or do an ordinance to change what we need to change to assist you to make this happen?
So what we're looking at is that their scheduled apprenticeship is scheduled to finish up their firefighter 1 side of it. The right around the last week of August. And then what we would like to do is transition them immediately into the next 4 weeks into EMT. So we have time, a few council meetings. Like I said, I'm going to put together a plan to try to get your approval, because like I said, that's the one snag that we really have is moving a shift employee to a temporary 40-hour position for 4 weeks. We have nothing in city ordinance, and just as we've had some conversations recently, we should be following ordinance. And if it's not there, there's no way for me to ask the CFO to overlook and just not follow ordinance.
You're on top of it. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. We'll touch base with Trish and then with you and see what we can do. Okay.
That's all I have for
That-
tonight.
Thank you for bringing it to us.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, have a good one. Wait a minute. Benny's got something.
Hey, if your wife cancels out, I'm.
I think you need to vet him as a travel partner.
I think that cruise did something to him. He's ready to go. Chief, did you have something for us? It's so good to see you.
Yeah, apologize. I'm late. I was, yesterday and then processing the fish this morning, so I was rushed to get here. So I apologize, but not a whole lot to add. We've got a lot going on at the police department. Jed's out for the week. I'm back at least for this week, and then I'll be leaving again to finish up some of the things I was doing before. And I think the council's aware of what I'm dealing with, but I'll be out again for a couple more weeks and talk to the mayor about that. But I've got my finger on the pulse for the most part, so I know what's going on, and everybody's keeping me in the loop and staying on top of emails and such. So you can always reach out to me if you need me or need to talk or call or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we got the some of the grants starting to kick off. We got like about 90 days left on the door and the camera systems. That's we kind of kicked a company in the rear there the other day and kind of get them to give us a timeline on where they're at. That's sounds like that's kicking off, and they're gonna putting a lot of emphasis on getting that taken care of. So that's exciting because they got till September 30th to finish that grant, so we can obligate those funds that we have worked hard to make sure we've got funding for. And then of course, we're still working on getting the door code systems in line for the clerk to be able to access the door code systems and myself. So that's happening as well. So there's just a lot of activity, but I'll take any questions if you have. I don't have a real report to give you tonight, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Yes, Larry.
Body cam changeover. Has that happened yet? I know that was reported at our last council meeting.
I think it's about 95% complete. We had a full deployment. Cars were changed over. Jed was pulling what hair he had left out the other day, and I think him and the Motorola reps were working really hard on getting all the little bugs worked out. But it sounds like the server transferred over okay once they got one of the big bugs worked out, and then the new body cams are nice. They're large. They got great video, and not much different than the quality we had before, but it does sound like the battery change out issue seems to be, I don't know, Todd's probably dealing with it more than me, but it sounds like that, you got to change them out halfway through your shift, whereas before they would last the entire shift. So I mean, that's one little quirk, but all in all, I think a positive deployment. I had good conversations with the Motorola reps. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yes, Jeff.
It was great to see you in the North Pole 4th of July parade on your Harley there. And also Chris Ellingsworth walking and interacting with the public along with our fire department staff and their equipment. So it was a nice parade. So thanks for being in that for the community. A lot of people lining the streets for a short parade, but loved it anyway.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Any other questions?
Oh yeah, we did have two new people. Actually, well, one started as FTO. McBroom started as FTO training, and then we had the final hire on the CSP officer. Well, volunteer currently, Mr. Wright, John Wright. He's going to start tier this next week. I think, kind of doing ride-alongs and getting his feeling out for the department. But he signed in his letter stating the protocols that we're going to be following during his transition from the Army to the department, and eventually on to the academy in September. So we're pretty excited about that. Thank you.
And then we have the 27th that's coming up. the fallen heroes.
Good one, yeah. 27th, we sent the email out to the council and everybody about that. So if
Right.
you could come, that's great. We don't have anybody going on the wall this year. We were hoping to, but those applications didn't come through. But we're still going to continue the celebration and make sure we honor those folks on the wall and those who've fallen. So if you can show up, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have you back,
Thank you.
even if it's for a week, but we know you'll be back. Yes, Larry? Oh, yes.
I just have a short report today. Candidate filing opened this morning at 8 a.m. I did have a few people that have picked up candidate packets, but they haven't turned them back in, so I have nothing unofficially to post on the website. Candidate filing ends Monday, the 29th at 5 p.m. So if you're interested, there's 2 weeks. If you have any questions, give me a call, Maggie. We're both ready to answer any questions that anyone may have. Does anybody have any questions on the council?
It's posted online as well, isn't it, Emily?
It is posted online. If anybody does sign up to be a candidate, I will notate it on the website each day before close of business. And then also, we did not have anybody at the last borough meeting because there's only one July meeting, which is Larry. You'll be attending that the 25th next week.
Thank you, Larry. And thank you, Emily, for that report. And so next is,
We have nothing for ongoing projects and nothing for unfinished business, which brings us to new business.
which brings us to Danny.
And that is the paving contract award recommendation.
Hey, everyone, you should be able to see the paving contract memo, which is about 6 pages into the packet. I've enclosed both the request for proposals and along with the recommended bid. We advertised this beginning in late June, and we closed it on July 8th. We reached out to 8 contractors, 8 companies for this. We put it on the News Miner on our website, and we had 3 folks that bid, 3 individual companies that bid on the contract. They're listed here: HC Contractors, Exclusive, and Hubbard Construction. After going through the packets and we found that 2 of the 3 didn't quite have everything in the packet. HC Contractors had a complete packet. Their price per square foot was $7.65. We scored that packet and we found it met the requirements for the work that we are looking for to happen. This is the right time of year to start the paving, and we recommend to the council going with HC Contractors for this. The Public Works folks did a survey of the city over the last week to confirm how much paving would actually have to occur. Right now, the prediction is about $78,000 worth of paving. That's 10,200 square feet. And this is split. About 75% of that is Public Works paving on the streets, and about 25% of that is utilities paving as a result of water breaks, fixes for water breaks. Again, bottom line is that we recommend awarding the contract to HC, and I'll answer any questions from the council at this time.
Any questions of the council? Yes, Benny.
When the packages are open, how many people are there to open the package?
There were
Was there 4 staff members and 1 member of the public, or 5 staff members and 1 member of the public?
there was one of the bidders was there,
Okay.
and there were 4 staff members, but we did have the same amount that scored the packets too. So
And scoring the packets, how do they do that? Is it,
if you look on the back of your packet, the last page,
okay,
it's got to roll up, and I apologize, it's so small. But we do have a process, and even I need my glasses to read this. They're scored on 4 different items. And it includes cost, prior experience, performance, and overall capacity. the cost making up the highest percentage of the scoring. And the packet was scored on that. Again, the scoring for the packet that we went through was 75% of the overall. And again, this was reviewed by 5 different individuals. Each of them scored the packet. And the bottom line is that the packet was thoroughly reviewed. Again, it meets the requirements for paving for the city of North Pole. HC does projects all over the interior. They are a respected company. We worked with them before. And as was previously observed, there have been disagreements with HC, but we've generally been able to work through them professionally. HC is the company that did all the work on Moose Creek for us, all the utility work for Moose Creek, which was a $40 million project. This is a pretty small project for HC, but because they have economies of scale, they are able to provide a fairly reasonable price.
Any other questions? Yes, Jeff.
I appreciate the fact that we followed a checklist for the bid opening and that we had 5 reviewers for this, and it looks like we're on track as far as following the code for procurement. And I don't have any problems with HC as a contractor performing this work. I know that we have a long relationship with them over the decades, and encourage the council when it comes time to vote on this to award it.
Any other questions or statements? Well, go ahead, Larry.
As long as nobody else has any questions, I'd like to move to approve HC Contractors as the paving procurement specialist to repair our city roads, as stated in your memo dated July 15th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
On the motion to award the paving contract to HC, Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Yes.
and that brings us to council member comments. Mr. Keller, would you like to start online?
Yeah. I hope we all get better and stay healthy. This is kicking my trash. One thing, in light of recent events with the attempted assassination of Trump, I just hope that we all keep everybody involved with that in our hearts and our minds and in our prayers. What a tragic event for everybody, including even the shooter and his family. Like, I can't imagine. So prayers to all the candidates that are putting themselves out there, not just to lead the country, but to live and die, to serve us and to help us reach the greater good. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Mr. Skips?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skips. Mr. Jacobson?
Yes, thank you. Anton, I hope you feel better. I'm on the tail end of me not feeling good for the last few days. So as a precaution, I wore a mask just to make sure no one got the crud that I had starting Friday. So kudos to our financial staff, Tricia and Michelle. It was really reassuring to hear the comments from our auditor, Karen, from LG Rayfeld. Audits are never easy. They're time consuming. There's so many moving parts. There's software glitches. There's reporting errors that are not necessarily staff oriented. It's just how the systems work. So I feel really good moving forward that we are on a good foundation, and the fact that we have an unmodified audit is really something we should all be very proud of, and express appreciation to all the staff that participated in that audit, which is Comes every year, and just as soon as you get done with it, it comes around again, it seems like. And thanks everyone for all your work. And I did bring in for the office staff dahlias from my flower garden. So in the kitchen, there are vases of flowers. So the three ladies who are here tonight can get first choice, and then the rest can get theirs in the morning. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
you bet.
Mr. Williams?
I'd like to thank everybody for putting up with my display that I did earlier and even showing me the bad parts of what I was doing. I'm gonna go home and try and fix that. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna figure out a way to do that. When I do that, I'll bring the picture back and you're gonna have to check on it. All right?
Be a thief, Danny. Don't be a thief.
Yeah, I don't care. I like the way everything is going with this new group as we got here. And looks like we're gonna have two other individuals, councilmen, if people would step up to the plate. And the most important thing that I can see is we treat everybody across the board fairly, honestly, and we make Fairbanks, we make North Pole, we make Fairbanks wishing that they was in North Pole. Okay, we can do that as a group, all of us, working together and making things work. And don't tell my wife what I said earlier, Neva, about the deal about her not, you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. You talking about us being mad because we had no hot water? Oops, did I tell that secret?
No comment. I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Church?
Not a whole lot. I want to reiterate what Anton said, what Jeff said, and what Benny said, with exception of the hot water. You never should have let her go that far, bud. That's uncalled for and unreasonable. You're lucky you didn't get beat down. That would have been horrible. I want to thank Danny, you for going forward with the paving contract and the way that you did it. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you reached out to Cody and Paul both to have them go out and measure the pieces that you actually needed so that we have some sort of hard line number to figure out. So I really appreciate their efforts. Other than that, it's summertime. Get out there and enjoy it while you can. The weather's supposed to be nice this weekend. Boating safety is always on my mind, but anything else you do, let's be safe about it. I know that I grew up in the 80s and rode bikes around without helmets, but I see more and more bicyclists and motorcyclists out there without helmets, doing some real reckless stuff. So if you're not on one, you're around one, keep an eye out for them, please. Let's not have that on anybody's plate this summer. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Mayor Clack?
I want to thank everybody for this evening and our accountants who did our books. I want to thank our staff on the chamber for putting in input and thinking and asking questions. That's very important. Danny, I want to thank you for the paving, which you did an excellent job in following code and everything else and doing the bidding process. So thank you very much on that. Now, with that being said, I also want to put out the information that the changing of command ceremony on the 17th of this month for the 354 Flighting Wing Patrol is Colonel Tony Alvador is relinquishing his position, and it will be sent to presented to Tim Foster. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that. My husband was in the Army, so I was able to see that transition. So this is going to be a little different to watch the Air Force do it. So I wanted to share that. The other thing I want to share is that don't forget to be there on the 27th for the fallen heroes. Thank you. And if you can attend, that would be highly appreciated for the families that are going to be there and the people that will be standing there. For that factor, that will be all for this evening. Oh, wait a minute. Benny's got something to say.
Where's it gonna be at the Air Force? Did they say it was gonna be in the park?
No, they changed it because of the weather.
Okay.
So it's going to be at the
NCO Club?
Yeah, you and I used to call it the NCO Club.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's called the Yukon Club Ballroom.
Oh,
Yeah.
long as the ball open, I'm good to go.
Right,
Okay,
okay. On Eielson
okay, into.
at 2450 Central Avenue.
What time was that?
It's at 2 o'clock.
Oh, get there at 1:30.
Yep. So, oh, got something in my, but, that is about all.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
And we are adjourned at 8:22.
Okay, I thank
seven.
you.
Blind.
Huh?
No.
I
2, 23, 24, 25. 20